Hello class, welcome. Today we're going to be looking at determinants with 2 by 2. Determinants are going to be one of the steps that we need to take to solve matrix when we have systems of equations that are bigger than two variables with x, y, z, or even more of those. You could have 4, 5, 6 matrices help us solve those. So what we're going to start with today is just the basic 2 by 2 matrix. So I have a matrix. I'm going to first start off with just letters A, B, C, and D. I know some of you guys aren't going to like letters there. You're going to want to see variable numbers, but we're going to look at those in just a second. So with a matrix 2 by 2, want to find the determinant, what we have to do is we're going to do a formula where we're going to get A times D minus B times C. So we have A right here and go down through the D, A times D. We're going to do this for all of them that are 2 by 2. And then we just end up with what our determinant is going to be. So let's look real quick at an example of this with actual numbers. We'll use some basic numbers. These numbers can be anything, but we'll just stick with ones that are easy to calculate right now. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what I'm going to do here is I just take my 1, go down through the 4 without pushing that button. So I get 4 times 1. Here I got 2 times 3, which will give me 6, which down here gives me 4. So I plug those into my equation up here. I get 4 minus 6. That gives me a determinant of negative 2. That right there is going to be a determinant 2 by 2. So let's look with one with a little bit uglier number. We'll start off with a 0 here, and let's go with the 4 right down here. We'll do a negative 1 and a 9. So it's going to be the same process on this. I get negative 1 times 9. That gives me a negative 9. 0 times 4 is going to give me 0. So now I have a 0, which because it's A times D, so it's always this first diagonal that goes into this spot. 0 minus a negative 9 is going to be the same as 0 plus 9, which gives me a positive 9 as my answer. So in this case, my determinant is 9. That is how we find a determinant of a 2 by 2 matrix. Hello class, welcome. We're going to be looking at 3 by 3 determinants today for our matrices. We just took a brief look at 2 by 2s, now we're going to do the 3 by 3. We should have this pretty quick, but again, most of the time these are going to be done on a calculator. We're going to look at that one next, and that's going to be a little bit easier. But it's a good idea to get an understanding here of what we're going to be doing. It helps to understand where the values are coming from. So we're going to take a look at this by hand, practice a couple of them this way. So we have 1, negative 4, and a negative 1. I have this diagonal right here. If I have a 3 by 3, my diagonal should be 3 long. But I only have the 1, negative 4, negative 1, and then I have 0, negative 4, and 3. That's not going to give me all the values I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the way this looks a little bit. I'm going to take this first column, the 1, 0, 0. I'm going to rewrite that over here. 1, 0, and 0. Take the second column. I want to rewrite that one too. 2, negative 4, and 3. So all I've done so far is I've rewritten this matrix, or this column, right over here outside. I then take the second column, I rewrite it right here as well. Again, what we're looking for here is 3 by 3 determinants. This right here is going to be what I think is the most tricky part besides the plus and minus. And we'll get to those in just a sec. So with this, I'm going to now make my diagonals. If I start at the 0 and go down or up, I only have 1 right here. So now if I go 0 to 3, that's only 2. I'm looking for diagonals that are 3 long. So here's my first one. Second one is going to start at 2, come down. Third one, right here. So we're making the diagonals. What we're going to end up doing is multiplication. So this is going to be 1 times a negative 4 times negative 1. So this is going to be my first one. The value of this is going to be 1 times 4 times the negative 1, which will be negative 4. So that's my first value that I'm looking for my diagonals. Second one is 2 times 1 times 0 That gives me a value of 2 times 0 is 0. My third one is going to be 3 times 0 times 3, which is going to also be 0. 3 times 3 is 9, but anything times 0 is 0. We're going to look at diagonals going up as well. So we just did our diagonals going down. Now we're going to look at diagonals going up. These are going to have different signs on them, which we're going to have to look at. That part's going to be a little bit tricky for us. So again, I want them to be 3 long. So I have 0 times negative 4 times 3. Anything with a 0 gives me a 0. Then I have 3 times 1, which gives me a value of 3. Negative 1 times 0 times 2 gives me 0 right there. So now I have 6 values. Important part on this, which you guys can write down into your notes, is going to be the up arrows, up, which I have here written in red, are going to be negative. So we're going to subtract all of these values. Then we have the down diagonals. The down diagonals I have written in white. Those values are going to be positive. So if it's down, that gives me a positive value. This part right here is not hard, but it is something that people can get confused. So if you have this written down in your notes, that is going to help you when we do that. Now we're just going to plug these into an equation where we have 4 notice I have a negative 4, negative 1. This value should be positive. So right here we have 4 plus 0 plus 0. But now we're going to end up doing our subtractions. So we're going to do a minus 0, which is from right here. I have a 3 over here, and then a 0 right here. So I have the 3, 0, and the 0. I'm going to subtract all these. So I do minus 0, minus 3, minus 0. So now when we're doing our addition and subtraction, some of these are going to be a little bit more complicated than this. Notice I have 4 zeros here. So with those zeros, that's pretty easy math. We can just ignore these. We can ignore this 0, this 0, this one, and this one. So essentially what we have is 4 minus 3. You can always use a calculator when they get more complicated, but this one I think most of you guys can solve otherwise. So I get an answer of 1. This is going to be my determinant for this 3 by 3. So this 3 by 3 determinant with its 9 numbers is going to give you a value of just one number down here. And the determinant is going to be 1 for this case. Alright guys, we got another 3 by 3 determinant here. This will be example number 2. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do the same thing that we did in the first example. We have this column 5, 0, 2. We're going to rewrite it over here. 5, 0, and 2. We then take our second column, negative 2, 3, and 0. Want to go through, we want to make 3 diagonals coming down, 3 diagonals going up. So I have the 5, 3, and 7. 5 times 3 times 7. 5 times 3 is going to be 15. 15 times 7 is going to be 105. So that's going to be my first value. Second value is negative 2, negative 1, and then 2. So I have negative 2 times 2 is going to give me a negative 4 times a negative 1 is a positive 4. And then 1 times 0 just gives me a value of 0. Now we're going to take a look at the up arrows. Remember, we want to distinguish between up and down because the up arrows are going to be negative, whereas the down arrows are going to be positive. So I have 2 times 3 is 6, times 1 is just a value of 6. Here I have a 0 in the second diagonal. So anything with a 0 in it is going to give me an answer of 0. So those ones are going to be the quickest. And the third one also has a 0, so that's a value of 0. So now I just want to go through, I want to add up the values I got. So I have a 6, I have a 0, I have a 0. Down here I have 105, I have a 4, and I have another 0. So remember, if it's a down, which is written in white, is going to be a positive. So let's go ahead and write those ones first. So 105 plus 4 plus 0 minus 6 minus 0 minus 0. So I get 105 plus 4 is 109 minus 6 gives me a value of 103. That is the determinant for this 3 by 3 matrix. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at these using a calculator, and we're going to get into more like fractions, a little bit more difficult looking problems.